change, maybe.
We on? All right, thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Wareham Zoning Board of Appeal. Tonight meeting Wednesday, October 12, 2022. And it is 6:30 p.m. at room 320 at the Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. I want to call the meeting to order. My roll call, my far left, Mr. Richard Semple. My far right, alternate member, Mr. Troy Larson. A regular member, Mrs. Veronica Deveniz. Our clerk, Jim Akabachi. Myself, the chair, Nazi Al-Khalasi. We have quick business to do, and we'll start with the continued public hearing. The minutes for 9/28/2022. I didn't look at them. What you got? Somebody?
I have reviewed them, they look accurate.
Anyone else?
Yes, I did. They look good to me.
Same.
Okay. Can we have a motion?
Move to accept as presented.
I second.
Second by Jim on the minute, by Richard on the minutes for 9/28/22. All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain. Okay, we have the decision on Settlers Glen, 2-21. Remember, I went to court and they came here, we made a deal. They just need our signature,
you and I,
one
I think you and I
signature.
showed up at the arbitration meeting.
Yeah, I
Veronica.
don't know, but they went to
And do
court.
you remember we came back and we discussed it, and then we asked the attorney to write it all up?
Yes.
Well,
So-
they finally wrote it. We've never signed it. So it came back, and I reviewed it quickly just now. You want to look at it and vote on it after the meeting?
Yes, why don't you each one look at it as we go, check it out.
Veronica will have...
All right, pass it to Richard,
To me, would be
Troy.
the most important one, because she was at the meeting during arbitration with,
All right,
And I wouldn't
With me.
even know what I was signing in.
other than remembering what we discussed at the meeting,
Well, I
yeah.
remember the meeting, yeah.
So, okay, so can we come back to that?
yeah, we'll table it.
Okay.
All right, continue public hearing, 25-22, Village 801 Main Street LLC.
And I believe that might be is that happening on Zoom, or is somebody here?
No, they're here.
Okay.
Our attorney is on Zoom.
Your attorney's on Zoom,
Yeah.
okay.
Hi.
I half remembered what I got in the
Yeah, no, you
email.
got it. So, Nanette Perkins, on the project, 801 Main. We have our civil engineer here, who has been before, Rich Tapazinski of Atlantic, and
John Scanlon.
Principal John Scanlon.
Okay, public hearing still open. Where did we leave it last time? Where did we leave it last time? I guess we were all in agreement just to finalize the draft and everything, correct? Or was something else you were gonna work with Mr. Rowley?
Sure, I think Peter was going to draft an agreement, which he did, and to forward on to you for your approval.
But what we also do have is the response to Mr. Rowley's suggestions and questions from the last meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Can the board hear me?
Yes?
Yes.
Hi, this is Stephanie Kiefer. I'm standing in the shoes of Peter Freeman this evening. So I'm via Zoom. So so if I could just answer your question, Mr. Chairman, as to where we were at the last meeting and kind of
Yeah,
what the applicant kind of envisions this evening's meeting to address. You're right. At the last hearing on the 28th of September, there were updated materials that were submitted, and Mr. Rowley gave some very helpful points and questions that he had. And so since that time, what was submitted earlier this week was a set of updated site plans, I believe updated building plans, a response by Atlantic Design Engineers to the discrete questions that were raised, in addition to a proposed decision that Peter had drafted, and kind of the hope and the desire is that we could close out the final points and move on to a review of the decision this evening. And I will let Rich from Atlantic Design kind of walk you through the changes. They're spelled out pretty easily in his letter of October 7, and it was mainly addressing the drainage calculations that were requested for a 100-year storm. The 25-year storm had been provided previously, so that's been completed. The paving in the cross section, it was requested that the base coat be 1 3/4 inch. That's shown on the updated plans, as well as a concrete ring around the drainage and sewer structures. And then, as you may recall, there was that discussion about the hammerhead off of the driveway between the building and the barn. And Rich can walk you through that, but just briefly, we've provided that hammerhead. And as a result, and as I think was anticipated, there was a slight adjustment to the septic fields. It's a little shorter and wider. We also lost 1 parking space. There had been 3 parking spaces in that area, so we've lost 1. There are 2 parking spaces, but just as a reminder, the project had 3 parking spaces in excess of the requirements of the bylaw. So it had been 19 total parking spaces. It will now be 18 total parking spaces, and 16 are required. And then I think the last comments or 2 were just to show on the plans the dumpster area, that was fenced in, and then to make certain that to show the grading and the drainage for the driveway, so that between the existing house and the barn, so that there's no discharge onto Main Street. So I think those are kind of the high points, and if you have any specific questions, I think that Rich can answer them, or if you want him to walk you through on the plans to show you kind of where those, I think it's 7 discrete points are, just to make certain that that's all buttoned up.
Okay, very well. Why don't we hear it straight from Mr. Rowley, and he'll give us the answer. Charlie, do you mind?
Yeah, I took a look at the plans, the latest plan submittal, which should be the same as what you have. My questions have been answered. The issues that were raised in the Atlantic design letter, recent design letter dated 10/7, I went through those. They have modified the drainage system, as has been suggested, and they did make a modification to add a turnaround to the rear of the existing dwelling and the barn that's going to be converted, so that a trash vehicle or even a septic tank truck, should it get in there, has a place to turn around. I did send just a rough sketch to Rich Tabazinski with his thoughts about making a change in the location of the dumpster, but in his response to me back, he said that they had actually put a template on it, and that the location of the dumpster and the turnaround that is shown on your plan will work. In the sketch that I did, I was able to add the 3rd parking space back, but since you're over the count, if you're satisfied with that, so am I.
Okay. So, I guess pretty much is good.
As far as I'm concerned, yes.
right.
I don't have an actual review. I was going to give a verbal report to you tonight, because there really wasn't much left to do
If you're
on
good
it.
with that, we're good. Troy, you have a question on that?
I do not.
Veronica?
I do about the parking space. Would you be willing to possibly put that back if it's possible, that 3rd space, with a look at what Charlie had put? I mean, I know it's not a requirement, but as you had
Yes,
stated.
I have
too,
the sketch here if anybody wants to see it. I know that Rich took a look at it, and he wanted to continue with what he has, since he's said the turnaround seemed to work. But if anybody wants to see it, this is what I sent to him.
Jimmy?
If Mr. Rowley's happy, I'm happy.
I believe you lost the space to do the hammerhead, right?
Yes, yeah, that's, and the
Exactly, so-
dumpster area,
Right.
yeah.
And you had extra 3 spaces to begin with, so that's fine.
I don't like parking behind dumpster trucks anyway.
No, we don't have that.
Charlie, can I ask you about that drawing? Is that just a change of the lines, just removing those lines so that it's not looking like a no parking at that spot?
No, what I did was relocate the dumpster, moved it back, put it sort of on an angle so that it was a little bit more of an approach, made a slight change to the turnaround area, and then was able to add the parking space back.
Is that way?
But it's not essential to meet code to put that back.
So you're okay with their way? You saw, you
So
saw,
so long as the turning movements and so forth for a truck that has to get back there can get turned around, and so he's headed out the driveway, not have to back out on the main street, I'm happy.
okay. Jake,
Okay with this.
Rich,
I'm fine. Thank you.
anyone in the public want to speak on that matter? Okay, I think we should move to close. Do you want to add anything before we close? No, you good? Okay, wishes from the board before we close?
No, I think we might be able to put this matter to rest and not have to see these people again.
Okay,
Not that we find you, unpleasant, it's just, I make a motion that we close the public portion of this hearing.
okay, do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Second by Veronica, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, oppose, abstain, so it's closed. So now, the wishes.
I think we've got a set of plans that can be worked. I don't think we need to make these people keep coming back night after week and paying experts to testify. Cost of materials is enough. I make a motion, we accept the plans as presented and dated, what's the date?
10-5, revised 10-5-22.
10/5/22.
Any discussion on the motion? And I guess we have the decision drafted by Mr. Freeman, town attorney will review it.
We've got a revised, we've got a draft decision here,
Right.
so,
Will, if we, okay, let's hear the motion first. Are we have a motion by Jim to grant, do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Rich, all in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye, oppose, abstain, so it carries. I just want to run it by town council.
Before we sign it, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
and we go, I'm sure it's good, I know Mr. Freeman, but we just run it by council, and the next week it'll be signed.
Wonderful. Within the next week, is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah, within next week, it'll be signed.
We'll ask, because we've got Sonia, she sits in the office with very little to do,
Oh, yeah, right.
and so we try to think of things for her to do. So we'll ask her to give you a call once the town council's reviewed it, and then you can come by and pick it up, and she'll tell you, oh, Jim or Nazi didn't come by to sign it. And you can come
I
by
hope she
again.
doesn't.
So instead of getting paid to come here and see us, you can get paid to go there multiple times.
Wonderful.
Right.
Excellent. Thank
Okay.
you
Thank you.
very much.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
coming in.
All right. Give me, I'm not gonna be here, I'm just gonna sign me. And you,
got it.
and you're gonna bring it personally with you,
Yeah.
so you have it. Okay? All right, very good. So that's out of the way.
You're gonna be out of,
Yeah, I'll be out of town. Okay, this is good. Next item, 26-22 Dos Amigos, we have a 12 Large Street, we have a
It's got
request, a continuance from attorney,
And these,
from attorney
yes.
Morton.
Richard, you're a
Okay,
good guy. Thank
Dos
you.
Amigos asked for a continuance
thank
again.
you, Rich.
They did.
Thank you, sir. I'll mix the new ones and the old ones, and
Oh, okay.
All right, 26-22, can I get a motion to continue this till November 9?
So moved.
I was,
second,
okay, moved by Rich, second by Jim, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, oppose, abstain, so that's on November 9,
It's not Dos Amigos.
12 Large Street.
That's Lark Street. Oh,
Done, done.
this is where you...
Okay, 28-22, PV1 LLC, 025. The solar, come forward, please. Okay, name and address for the record.
Good evening.
You look like somebody that was on Zoom.
Yes, yes, and I have to say, I apologize for having been on Zoom the past 2 meetings. I'm finally recovered enough from COVID to be here in person, and happy to be here, finally.
All right, I missed some. For the record, Jake Morrison came in at 6:40 PM. All right, your name, counselor, for the record?
Yes, Betsy Mason from Claiborne's Law Group, 420 Boylston Street, Boston, Massachusetts, for Wareham PB1 LLC.
All right, public hearing still open, so want to fill us in, please? Where'd we leave it last time? Because you guys asked a request for continuance.
Yes, yes, we did.
So, okay, so where are we at?
Well, basically, now that we're in the same room, we wanted to start by describing the setbacks we're proposing for each boundary line and why. And the reason we want to do that is because we think we've demonstrated that we've met the 3 statutory criteria. That is, we've got a unique circumstance, the shape of the parcel, and have demonstrated, we think at the last meeting, that the hardship here, the substantial hardship, arises out of the shape of the parcel. So now we want to both further discuss the setbacks that we're proposing and demonstrate why, if this board were to grant the variance, these proposed setbacks, the setbacks that we're proposing in place of the 50-foot setbacks required by the zoning bylaw, would not have substantial detriment to the public good and would not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent or purpose of the bylaws. So just to be concise, which I clearly struggle with, while our variance request is for relief from the requirement for full 50-foot setbacks from the property boundaries, we want to be clear that we are not asking for 0 setbacks from the boundaries. Instead, we're proposing setbacks of between 10 and 45 feet along certain stretches of the property boundaries, and Sarah will explain this, walk us through this in more detail. And just a final note that we've worked with the planning board over many hearings over a number of months to arrive at these specific compromise setbacks. And as I've mentioned before, the planning board has told us, we've arrived at this somewhat compromised position. They haven't voted on it yet, but they said, essentially, these look good, but we cannot grant you a waiver or a variance from the 50-foot setback requirements. You need to go to the ZBA for that, and that's why we're here. So I will turn to Sarah now.
Thank you. Good evening, Sarah Ebaugh from VHB, the site civil engineer, here on behalf of the client. As Betsy mentioned, I'll just briefly go through the setbacks that we're proposing, starting on the plan left here, which is south along Route 25. So based on concerns and comments from the last meeting, we have increased that buffer along Route 25 from the 25-foot setback to the 50-foot setback with concerns of screening from the highway.
So if I understand, sorry to interrupt,
No, of
but
course.
50 foot is in compliance with the bylaw.
Correct.
So along the highway, you're in compliance.
Correct.
You're not looking for a variance there. Okay.
Yep. And then just moving clockwise around the site, so along the property lines that abut the maintenance lot, we are providing a 10-foot setback and then 25-foot setback to the fence, which is,
I can go over there and point.
the figures in front of you, which is existing vegetation that's going to remain, as well as the property line that we're providing 30 feet setback from the maintenance lot, again, knowing that in the foreseeable future that will be a commercial use. There is some pockets along that property line that have no vegetation where we're providing 30 feet setback, so we are also proposing additional landscaping there to add some more screening. Moving north of the access road, again, this is the part of the site that's been previously cleared. So we have the most constraints here just based on the existing topography as well as the shape of the property lines themselves. So you can see that 15 to 45-foot setback line. The fence is proposed at the bottom of that existing slope, which is about 10 feet lower in grade than the adjacent lot, which actually provides some screening itself. Even if that town lot was completely cleared, if you're about 40 to 50 feet back from the top of that slope, the sight line is really over the proposed array, and it does block most of the array just due to how much lower the grade is at that area. Again, with the constraints of the site and how narrow it is, we are proposing that fence as close to the bottom of the slope as possible, just to eliminate any need for additional earthwork in this area. You can see the break in the panels as well. That's sort of the pinch point of the site, just based on the width and also the 100-foot buffer zone. So actually, without a variance at this location and site, there actually wouldn't be enough room to construct the 20-foot wide access road that would be required. So without a variance, we are losing about 2.5 acres of the development up at that northernmost part of the site. Again, moving along the property lines, the north property line, where it has the 25-foot to 30-foot setback line, the same sort of site constraints, and actually benefits with that slope that's been vegetated and is stabilized. So again, proposing no changes to that location. Along the eastern property line, again, adjacent to the cranberry bogs, which we know, again, is going to be that use for a substantial amount of time. And that northeast corner, there is existing vegetation, and due to the buffer zone as well, where the fence is located, we are providing 70 to 130 feet from the property line to that fence line location. Moving a little bit further south, again, where the lot sort of narrows a bit, the fence line is proposed, again, right outside that buffer zone, which is providing a range of about 20 to 60 feet setback from the property line, again, in the location where it's adjacent to the cranberry bogs only. Moving just a little bit further south, south of the access road back to the previously undeveloped site, a portion that is adjacent to the cranberry bogs, we are proposing 10 feet. And then again, you can see the purple line is the 200-foot riverfront area that we want to remain out of as well, just because it's the resource area buffer. So based on the fence location staying out of that, it is a range in this location of 10 feet to 100 feet. Again, this portion of the site is adjacent to wetlands, which will not be developed. So that's just an explanation of, that was brought up at the last hearing, why there are certain ranges, and just sort of explaining the intent of where that fence is proposed on site.
Okay, very good. So, Troy, any comments?
No.
Veronica?
Not at this time.
Jim?
Just want to be clear, the planning board kind of blessed or approved the plan, the compromise plan. You brought it to us, we whined and moaned, and you've adjusted it to this. So this is a compromise of the compromise.
Yes, and we would bring it to the planning board, back to the planning board to get their buy-in as well, but I'm sure they'd be happy, given that we're, you know, as you say, in
My
compliance.
only comment, I guess it's Jacob's turn.
Jacob? Richard?
So, by continuing this meeting, I took some time to look up some things about the 10 negative effects of solar panels that nobody tells you about. And one of them that came right up to begin with, it says rainwater has been shown to cause the cadmium from the solar panels to escape, causing potential for substance to seep into the soil. And I do know that there's a river that runs right through there, and that's moving water that's below all where the panels are going. So I was a little concerned about that. And then I also pulled up another article, and talking to them from over in China, and they're talking about these panels going into the dump, or wherever you want to take them. And the gentleman at the end of it said basically that it's going to turn the country's solar power industry is a ticking time bomb because of the way they put all these panels. So I know that it's all in good faith as far as green energy and whatnot, but after all these people get done meeting with us, building it, and then they all go away, we're left with this, and if it gets into our water, and again, I think there's plenty of these electric fields over in that area that are on top of it, I have a hard time believing that there will be no problems with our drinking water down the road. So I don't know if there's any way that we can have somebody in our town that would become a soil tester and find out if we're losing or weeping any of this material in from the solar panels into the soil that we already have, to try and stop something that could be a very hazardous situation to Wareham.
So Richard,
Again, I do understand that these things are going in good faith, but at the same time, they are just eating up a ton of land, and I also believe that this, going in this area is going to be handicapping the residential area in there, because none of this property will be able to be sold as residential, so, if it wanted to down the road. So that's what I have to say about that tonight.
just if I may, the planning board, as we did before, will impose a bond, I'm sure, if they abandon it, to take it down.
And that's another question that I would have. Do you put a bond up there, but you don't know how much it's gonna cost to take these panels out in 20 years? So is that gonna cause us a problem down the road? Okay, we put $200,000 aside in case they just up and left, and then we have to come in and take it all out. Does the town have enough to cover all this? So it's kind of a lot of unknowns that go on with these electric fields, so that's my
If you
feelings.
ask me, I like gas motors, but
I'm just
it
worried
is
about
what
our
it is.
drinking-
We follow
I'm worried about
the...
our drinking water, because we all have it.
I know,
We all got it.
but,
And these things are just popping up all around up in there, and I'm concerned. I'm not an environmentalist, but I do enjoy nature, and I do like water.
I think Mr. Semple, in amongst your comments, made a brilliant, I don't know if it was a suggestion or comment, but I think it would be a wonderful thing if somebody other than the owner of the panels was monitoring any seepage or leakage. And I don't know how to create that, but I think we could make it a condition, if we were going to approve this, that even if we have to figure out who that is before we say yes, I think it'd be very prudent for this board to make it a condition that the perimeter, you know how they have monitoring wells when there's a oil spill, et cetera? Those same guys that love to charge ridiculous amounts of money to drill holes and put little bottles down in them, I think they'd be happy to come drill holes and put little bottles around this solar field if we could just figure out who that is.
It's just that we have so many in here now, and I would just like to know if we could catch something early.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
prevent
no,
it.
I'm
And these
with you.
panels are old, and these panels are older for most of them. I do understand that these panels, they're finding things and making new ones, but we have a bunch that went in for years that could be leaking and nobody's checking, and I would hope that it's not gonna hurt anything.
So let me ask a question. So they saying if, when it rains on them, they leak, they wash down? No, I believe, I just,
I can pass it around if anybody wants to
but
look through it.
that's what they saying?
That's what it says on there.
If I could, sorry,
Yeah.
respond to
If that's
just
the
a
case,
couple
we have a
points.
major problem on the whole world. The whole world will have a problem. I'll
Well,
get to you, sir.
because of the solar energy, people are a big conglomerate, and there's a lot of people who back them. There's a lot of hush money going on to keep it that way, and we see it every day, that people with a lot of money want to make a lot more money, and they don't care about the small person, or their drinking water, or their livestock, or how their life goes down the road in 50 years after these things are only good for 20 years. I think it's a big concern that we ought to stop monitoring them somehow.
If I may, the
Well,
planning
yeah,
board
yes, ma'am.
addressed this issue. We actually spent most of one hearing evening on it, and do you want to?
Yeah, so as part of the planning board submission, there was also a decommissioning plan as well. We did also provide to the planning board a groundwater study that was performed by a scientist from VHB up in our Vermont office who has worked on a lot of solar projects. His report was specifically regarding the change in the groundwater elevation, because there were concerns about not just the runoff, but the groundwater itself. So his report indicated that there was a minor change to the groundwater elevation just due to the development as well. We did submit a stormwater report as part of the planning board submission as well to talk about the treatment of the runoff and the peaks and treatment that we provided, especially on that southern half of the site that's previously undisturbed.
And that was with the planning board and not with us, so you know, I didn't hear all this. But again, I do believe that there's something that we should be looking forward to.
So, I'm not sure, I listened to you, but I'm not sure I heard you, because it sounds like they went out there and checked the ground, and they said the ground is clean.
So I can't quote the report
I
specifically,
think
but
that Mr. Simple's concern isn't current conditions. I think his concern is future conditions as a result of the presence of these panels. And I'm kind of, I think that his concern has a lot of merit, and that's why I chirped in and said, it sure would be nice if there was some way that the area under and around this and any solar field in any town, in any state in the world, would be nice if they were constantly monitored on a, I don't know what frequency is appropriate, but I sure do hear what the point that Mr. Simple's bringing up, and, you know, if we can drop a pebble in the water, maybe there'll be a ripple effect, who knows?
And I think this area in particular, because this is the area of our watershed, is it not?
Well, there's,
You also have a well field that has a huge solar field right in the middle of it. All our pumps that are up off of Charge Pond Road on the right-hand side. When you go down the end of High Dam Road, you take a left. There's a huge one right there, and if you go 100 yards up the road, there's a pumping station there, and if you come down another 100 yards this way, there's another one, and it's smack dab right in the middle of all our well fields. And then this one's just to this side of it. So the watershed is completely being covered by these solar fields right now.
we can't make this company monitor the other company's installations, but we sure can hold these people accountable for, if we're gonna approve something, we can add any condition we want, and they can either agree to do it or abandon the project. So I think it might be, there might be some merit if even if we have to continue, if we could come up with some kind of, just to say it should be monitored, it's too vague.
It should
It's too vague.
It
And
should
I
be
hate to
done by
throw it
somebody
back
in this
at you.
town.
Hate to throw it back at you, but you know, you seem to have the most interest, so maybe you would be the guy that could come back to us and say how it could be monitored, or...
I feel like that should be the applicant's responsibility.
Well,
And I think we would be willing to take a look at that. I mean, you know, a
Maybe you can come
mutually
back
agreed
to us
upon
and tell
third
us how
party,
you're
and we
gonna
would
monitor
put
it,
some money
yeah.
aside into, you know, in the same way that we put up a decommissioning bond, you know, figure out, I don't know what the financial mechanism would be, you know, a mutually agreed upon third-party consultant, you know, independent, like Mr. Rowley, who brings their expertise to bear. And I
But it
guess it would be...
just goes with my concern is that you're going to be gone, we're going to be gone, what are our children, what are our grandchildren going to have?
Well,
Is it
I've
going to
got
be a
children
wasteland?
too, and they're
you
gonna have
know,
children too, I
And I just
understand.
see so many of them going up, and it's ruthless, because everybody, oh, we got to have it, we got to have it. But at the same time, we got to have a lot of other things too that we don't supply for. So I just would like to be somehow,
You're being
get some kind of a
cautious, and
commission.
your caution has merit, I think.
And so it's my thought, this project is going to move forward regardless of what we determine here. That's just my thought on this. Because this is a pretty good size. I mean, as I had said the first meeting, and I'll say it again, it's a matter of getting more panels, not necessarily doing the project. So that being said, I do think that if we were to work with you to try and negotiate the setbacks, and in turn, put in place some kind of monitoring that, you know, it would be your responsibility to come forward and give us something that makes sense, because I'm sure they must have them, especially now with so much being revealed about the drainage and the whatever it is that's coming up.
Cadmium telluride, I mean, I think there,
Oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of other chemicals that can come out of them, whether they seep into our drinking water, whether they hurt the wildlife, it's
I think there's evidence on both sides of the issue. That said, I respect what you're saying, and I think that, you know, we would definitely be willing to go back and talk with Longer Energy about some sort of a
Some
plan.
system of monitoring so that the
Right.
town has, at least at this site, and then, maybe you guys will come up with something that the town will say, that's why we got flat foreheads,
Right.
And maybe we can adopt it, who knows? But it seems as though you're being held to a little bit higher standard, but, all I can tell you is that on my first birthday, I stuck my finger in the candle.
Whoops.
On my second birthday, I pulled my finger back.
Right.
You're in around the 40th birthday now.
Understood. No, I think we recognize that there are a lot of solar facilities in town.
Yeah.
And, be that as it may, we, to borrow that tired and true phrase, we want to be good citizens and in the town and be responsive to concerns. And we can try to figure something out here. If I can also just make one point, and that is to your point of seeking to get more panels as opposed to what we have now. I said it last time, but I was on Zoom, so who knows. We didn't come to the project knowing that we were going to have to seek 50-foot setbacks. We originally proposed the project to the planning board with just the regular commercial setbacks because and again, I won't drag into the language of particular provisions, but we don't think they apply still. The three provisions from which we're seeking the variance, the 50-foot setback provisions. We went back and forth about this at the planning board hearings, and the planning board ultimately said, okay, we can't waive them, you need to go to the ZBA. But our original proposal, we did not anticipate that we were going to be, oh gosh, we can only make this project fly if we can get these setbacks. We didn't think we needed them. So I just wanted to, we're not sort of being bad actors and trying to flip the system or work the system somehow, but rather, trying to proceed as close to what we originally were proposing as possible. And as the process has gone along, we've gotten to this revised compromise proposal, and again, in the interest of working with the town, residents, board members, we'll.
So, to talk about what you're talking about, that you were in the assumption that it would be commercial setback. So I know it was stated at the last meeting that the property that is surrounding this project is residential. So regardless of whether there's a house or not, that is the law. It's for residential zone.
Right.
So.
Pardon me for interrupting you, but that's where, I don't want to get into let's parse the sentences, but the way it's written, we disagree. We know that we're in the R130 district, but I think reasonable minds can disagree, and a judge certainly could look at it and say, well, it could be worded differently to achieve exactly what the town wants it to achieve. That is, hey, you're in a residential district. You're abutting residential properties or residential lots. And I don't want to beat this dead horse, but just to say, we disagree that that's how it's worded, and that's why we're here for a variance from those. So we can forego those altogether because we think the unique shape of the lot, the fact that the substantial hardship arises out of the shape, and the fact that the goal of those requirements is to protect residential abutters, of which there are none.
So I'm going to tell you what I was thinking when I looked at this.
Yes.
And taking into consideration the residential abutment to that zone, and the fact that there is municipal buildings here. My feeling is, and I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but around the municipal buildings and the properties that are already developed, there's obviously not going to be residents here. Those setbacks, I'm not concerned about. Commercial is fine. However, on the right side, this is untouched property. It's, you've got a lot of trees in that area that are going to be coming down. In those areas, that setback, I think, needs to remain the setback that was set for the residential zone. And then in the back here, obviously, you've got cranberry bogs. To me, that's not really a concern. I mean, nobody's going to have a house there. And again, I feel like this project is going to move forward. So if we can come to terms with that and then get some kind of monitoring set up in place, hopefully we can
All right.
do something.
And we'd like to work with you on that.
All right, if I may, if we're here for the variance, if you're gonna condition monitoring before they go out and do all this work, are you willing to bend on the setback? There's no sense make them do all these things. We're looking
Yes.
about 14 wells.
Yes, that's what I was just saying. I
Are
am
you
willing to
As
bend.
presented?
Not as presented, no.
Okay, so would they have to change this?
They could decrease the setbacks near the municipal area, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what the rest of the board feels, but that's not going to have residential there. They've got a 30-foot setback, a 25-foot setback surrounding that whole area. That's maybe, just looking at this, how it's drawn, it's probably similar in length to what they have in front of the residential area. So if they take a little away there and put it back at the residential where all those trees are,
Was there a gradient issue there?
So the grading issue does occur on the north half of the site, which I know is the area that you're referencing. And again, that's why I wanted to mention sort of it's a constraint with the topography, again, having to work with that and minimize the earthwork. But again, it does, based on the fact that that 50-foot setback is for screening from the solar array, that location really does help in terms of the topography, how low the array will be sitting compared to the adjacent site. Again, and as I mentioned before, if all those trees were cleared, if you're about 40 feet back from that property line, your vision is just going over the array, and it's mostly blocked just because the grade is so much lower compared to the town lot adjacent to it. So unfortunately, the biggest constraints we have are in that area. Again, with that pinch point too as well, which without the variance of the 50-foot setback would eliminate the potential use of that northernmost section of the array.
Anyway, regardless, there's gonna be a plan agreed on if they go out and do these wells. I don't think the well's gonna work. That's way too many wells, very costly, but if you guys willing to go back and, you'll have to agree for an extension, same as us, because I think your deadline is very close, I think in the 5th.
Say November 5th?
Right, so we don't have them back and forth.
yeah, so I think we should
Troy,
discuss the setback.
it might be a yes for you if they work it out?
Possibly, but again, that area that abuts the residences, and it looks like, I mean, it's hard to tell on this, you know, what's coming down for trees and stuff. It looks like there aren't many. Area.
If I could, are you talking about that northernmost property specifically? So that has been previously cleared. Over on the side of the cranberry bogs, you can see the solid green hatch. That's the existing tree mass that's to remain. Along the western property line, the steep slope is actually vegetated and stabilized, and I do have some photos as well. So I can pass them around after, but the slope is stabilized with some vegetation on it.
Photos would be great, yeah.
The sand area that you see in these photos, that is the area that would be within the proposed fence line, and we're proposing a meadow mix to be planted on top of that to sort of stabilize that ground as well and provide treatment for the runoff, but I can pass these out.
While you're passing this, Rich, are you willing to compromise if they come up with this idea, or no?
In a professional world, a compromise is what we're all trying to get to. But again, you know, as we keep going on, Veronica brought up a good point that, you know, you still got the houses across the street, and you have that area where there could be houses. So that I could also be pretty stern about, but as far as the cranberry bogs, if you wanted to niche over to there a little bit more, that's his call. I mean, that's cranberry bog man.
But this is all conditioned to have monitoring wells, right?
I'm concerned just about the soil conditions. I don't know about monitoring wells.
Well, the
Well,
monitoring
that's
is to
how you
protect-
you do monitoring wells, and you,
Yeah, but I guess so.
okay.
If it's wells, I didn't know which way we were going with
I
it
don't
as
know if
far as
it's-
checking
I
it.
don't know if,
I mean, the way to do it is monitoring wells. That's the right way to do it.
Well, if that's the right way, then yes.
All right,
Monitoring
before we go, let's go, Anyone in favor of this project? In favor? Yeah. Come.
There was a study.
You gotta come here with your, on the mic with your name and address.
I'm not sure if this.
Name and address, name,
Dominic Camerano, Onset, Mass.
okay.
I'm not sure if this, has any answers for Mr. Simples, but they did a study in the 60s with all the homes had lead paint. And they did a study with the rain affecting the lead running off of, homes in the lead paint. And that study is still ongoing, and the lead from the homes, from the rain washing off, has still not reached the aquifers. And so that you're talking 60-something years. So I know that you were concerned about rainwater washing certain chemicals off. It takes, they don't even know how long it would take to go down to the soil into the aquifers. That study is, you can see it online.
Well, I saw enough studies that I read,
Well,
so
I just wanted to bring that
thank you,
up.
thank you for your point of interest.
I do understand Dominic, but on the defense of Richard, two wrongs doesn't make a right. So if there's a problem, it's gonna show up one day. But we going off to lead now, then asbestos and everything.
We were still looking for comments in the affirmative. Is there anybody with their hand up that wants to support this?
Right.
He put it- So now, to let the chair
Now, who's against the project?
that wants to speak.
What's on, who's on Zoom, sir?
I had two that had their hands up. When you said
Let's do the Zoom.
All right, let's hear them. Listen, it's only 2 minutes for each one to talk. It's getting way out of hand. 2 minutes. Who's on Zoom?
Yes, my name is George Ekman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I live at 64 Blackmore Pond Circle in West Wareham, and I spoke briefly at the meeting last time to voice my opposition to granting the variance. I was the one who mentioned the box turtle, and apparently my point was not really taken very seriously, because at the end of the meeting, the lawyer for the petitioner even chose to specifically mention the box turtle, and she dismissed its plight with the following statement, and I quote, "This is not my problem." And she is exactly right. None of this is her problem. This is our problem. This corporation will build its project and go on to the next one somewhere else, leaving all the problems with us. The fact that there are very significant legal precedents supporting the position that there is no valid basis for granting a variance is not her problem. That's our problem. The fact that there are important environmental concerns, not her problem. That's our problem. The fact that there are substantial quality of life issues is not her problem. It's our problem. The fact that this project is situated in a residentially zoned area is not her problem. She just conveniently ignored this important consideration and has tried to hoodwink this board by stating over and over again at the last meeting that there are no residences near this site. Again, not her problem, it's our problem. She was even so bold as to state that any decision made here will not set precedent, as though she has a crystal ball to know the future, what the future will bring. Now, I have a crystal ball too, and my crystal ball says that every corporation wishing to maximize profit will cite this decision, and if we grant this variance today, we won't have a leg to stand on in the future. So it's quite clear to me the petitioner's only concern here is to maximize their profits, and if that means flaunting the laws that were specifically put in place to protect us from such abuses, so be it. It's not her problem. Members of the board, I ask you to consider all of the very substantial objections that have been made against this proposal and weigh their merits against those of a corporation's money grab. In the final analysis, you can choose to either set precedent and encourage this kind of egregious overreach, or you can choose to protect the citizens of Wareham, and I would hope that protecting the citizens of Wareham would be the primary focus of this board. Now, I originally brought up the box turtles because, like the canary in the coal mine, I believe they will be among the first casualties brought about by the serious environmental issues and important quality of life
15
concerns
seconds, sir.
that have been voiced. So the petitioner may choose to treat them with disdain, but it's not their problem because it's very much our problem. So in the final analysis, I realize a few box turtles don't really matter very much. After all, they don't have a vote.
Time
in
is
this
up.
Thank you,
But
sir.
on
We get
behalf
the
of
message.
the citizens of Wareham, I urge you to deny the variance. Thank you in advance for your thoughtful consideration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next person, please.
Next person on Zoom. We don't mean to be harsh to people, but this could go on till midnight, and a lot of them
Hi.
are London.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm Angela Adams Ferrero from Charge Pond. I'm actually also concerned about what could happen to our wells down here. I'm one of the houses that's on a well. And I know in our neighboring town of Carver, they recently stopped a project last October because they couldn't guarantee that the arsenic, chromium, and copper that was leaching into the water table wouldn't affect the neighbors. So they had to stop that project. And then also all the wildlife that we have out there.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, yeah, come forward, please, one at a time. Thank you. And let's stick to the point and make it quick, please, if you don't mind.
I'm here for 2 minutes, I got it.
Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Kearns-Fox. I'm at 214 Charge Pond Road. I'm opposed to the variance request submitted because it fails the required legal criteria, undermines the precise purpose and intent of the solar setback bylaw, and fails to serve the public good. Additionally, most people on Charge Pond Road are on well water. Only a handful are on town water, up until the brick, the brick wall. Also, the town aquifers come there. I also want to address the group kind of saying repeatedly that the planning board said it looks good, and this, kind of indicating this might be kind of a little box they have to check. That, to my understanding, is not the intent of any of these boards or committees. So there's a huge group of Charge Pond Road residents, and I have letters from 22 families here. And that's about it. That's all I have.
Would you like those letters submitted to the file for the record?
I do.
Please bring them
Just one.
forward. Thank you. Thank you for your
You did it
comments.
in 50 seconds. You're good.
Good job. Thank you.
All right, next person. Yes, sir, come through.
Hello, Eric Nicotra, 214 Charge Pond Road. I have some interests in the study that was done on the groundwater system and the grade. I'm not sure what the company was, but if we could get copies of that, that'd be fantastic. Sure. Do have interest in that. I am a wastewater treatment operator. Well, that's separate. I also have an interest in the sewer main.
Sure.
That you had discussed.
Talking to the board.
You can't talk to the applicant. You can only talk to us.
So, did you hear me?
Yes, we heard
We
you.
can hear, we
Got
just,
it. Okay, thank you. So can we get those? And, just as a final statement, you say in a professional world, we would try to reach compromise. I would say that putting a time cap on the people that have an opposing view as you, after speaking freely as much as you all did, says compromise is in fact not your goal here. A little respect goes a long way, and the lack of understanding of that is pretty shocking.
Thank you.
thank you for your comments.
Those studies, if you go online, they online. You guys inserted that in the application, right?
We can provide a copy to the board for,
Just put it online, add it to
We got a
your
Zoomer that
application,
wants to
yes.
speak.
Now, we're sticking with the floor right now. On the floor, who else would like to speak? Sir, yes.
Eric Lintillo, 15 Squirrel Island Road in Wareham. At the last board meeting, Mr. Rowley stated, not only does it abut the residential district, but it's in the residential district. This would surely affect any future abutters who wish to build homes on parts of this land. The variance being asked for does not show any hardship or special circumstance. There's nothing from stopping them to build within the required buffer of 50 feet. It's still substantially a large project that they're proposing. 4 other solar fields close by have 50-foot buffers. Why should this one be any different? The water issue that you bring up is very interesting. There's a lot of information out there, and very recent information, especially in regards to what the panels are made out of and what the possible cause of those chemicals could run off into the watersheds, people's wells, or in nearby rivers or streams. the setback might possibly help this. Monitoring wells is a good idea. Issue with monitoring wells, if you're dealing with levels of water, then you're dealing with certain times of the year where the water level changes. But water quality monitoring is a whole nother issue. And I would highly encourage any kind of monitoring for the water, especially if they're near the watersheds and nearby creeks and rivers.
Thank you. Next person on the floor. Ma'am?
My name is Jill. I'm from 218 Charge Pond Road. And my time won't be excessive, but it might be a little more than 2 minutes.
Okay.
A question that I did have was answered by one of the representatives here, and that was about the original planning. Because it seemed odd to me that there didn't appear to be a plan that considered our town's bylaw of the 50-foot buffer. So she did sort of answer that question. I would still question why they weren't familiar with our town's bylaws if they were coming with such a large project. The claim of the hardship for the shape of the lot, I don't see how that is an actual hardship where they know what the shape of the lot is. They're aware of the parameters and the restrictions on it. Wanting to put more panels on the property is not a hardship. There are other solar panels located not far from that project that are oddly shaped as well. Those companies managed to do it, and I know there's a narrow sliver there. It is, it's a little disrespectful, I think, not for lack of a better word, to the town, to the residents, to the bylaws. It just doesn't constitute an applicable hardship. The shape of the land, it just does not constitute that. The property, I've seen it described, and I apologize too because
We have 15 more seconds.
I only became aware of this last week. So I've been trying to play catch up and learning about this. I do have, I've read the letters that were recently sent by the Clavin Law Group. In one of the letters, it states that there are no residential abutters, and there are two.
Ma'am, your time is up. Thank you.
Well, I still have.
If you have letters, you could pass them to
I
us.
have a few things still to offer, and my time is not excessive. I'd like to be able to just kind
Well,
of.
we'll come back to you later. Let's hear from other people. We'll come back.
I think I'm here, and I would just like to finish.
Ma'am, I'm not giving you the floor.
The two, okay, I will present these.
Just present
then
us
as
the
well.
papers.
So I have right here the two residential abutters, 122 and 124. They've signed opposition forms.
Can we have those?
For the variance, along with several other, I don't know if I think 122 was going to try to join us on Zoom. I'm not sure.
Maybe they are. We'll see.
We have some Zoom people waiting to be heard.
Let's finish the people on the floor. Who else on the floor? Ma'am?
Thank you. You want those in the record?
Did you want to speak, ma'am? Anybody else on the floor? Thank you. Ma'am. Anyone else? Okay, where? Okay, ma'am.
Just for the record, she had the floor for 3 minutes and 33 seconds. So just so that we know, we said two, and we're trying to work with you folks.
I gave her my 1 minute.
No problem.
Yes, ma'am. Name and address.
Annie Hayes, 52 Farmers Lane. I hope you all got the document I sent with the URLs. It was to be sent to all of you. I sent it to Sonia.
When did you send it?
After our last meeting, a few days, because I had...
Several days ago?
No. after the last meeting, a few days after that meeting, because I had given you
Couple of
the,
weeks ago.
I gave you the document without the URL so you could look at the research.
We got it.
Okay, good. All right. There, I erased the new document I had, I'll get it to you. The leachate is very important. The leachate that's potential from cadmium telluride panels, which is the ones, are you still going with those oh, sorry, through you, to ask the proponent if they're still going with cadmium telluride, the first solar make and model.
Are you still going with that, ma'am? Same model?
We're going with First Solar Panels, that's the present plan, and we have submitted documentation to the planning board regarding the lack of leachate from those panels.
Are you suggesting there's panels better than others, or one leaks, one doesn't?
Yes, the study that I am referring to is one from the Stuttgart University in Germany.
I know, but I gotta stop everyone. We're
Yes.
concentrating on variance. These studies, none of us are scientists. No, I totally understand. There's, all these big companies makes all these things that tell you one thing, it's another. But this is not the place to discuss this. We're only here for the variance, and we're tired, and we volunteers, and it's taken a long time. So I don't want to discuss much about which panel is which, because we wouldn't know.
Well, you can read the science and you would become more informed.
Veronica,
Yeah,
what did you want to say?
I do want to know what she has to say. I do think it's important for us to make our decision.
She should have her 2 minutes.
We're gonna give her 2 minutes.
I
You
stopped
just-
it, I stopped it while this
Go ahead,
site-
ma'am. Let's hear the science.
Cadmium is very toxic. And so when you put it in it's combined with telluride, which the proponents, I mean, I'm going too fast. The manufacturers say makes it stable and insoluble. The Stuttgart study took 1.5 years testing its solubility under different pHs. The standard is usually 24 to 48 hours. All of this is documented. The study was done at the bequest of the German government, and it's referred to over and over. People are getting much more strenuous in their science evaluating, and we have our drinking water right under. Through you to the proponent, could they tell us how far below the surface of the deforested area, or even the sand area, the aquifer is? How many feet from that, in that narrow strip, how many feet from the sand that we see in the photograph?
That information has been submitted, and you can go to the office and get a copy
Any
of that
rough
report.
idea?
I mean,
I would say 30 feet, 40 feet at least.
Well,
I'm not sure.
there is a groundwater study.
Okay, the quarry right next to it, I mean, not the quarry, the sand quarry right next to it is very visible. And the water, at times, what I've seen in photographs, you see a blue pool as if it had been intruded in already. Do you know about that?
We don't, but water table is one thing and aquifer is another.
Yes, okay, that's true.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I'm getting.
I mean, our aquifer, just to let you know, stretch all the way to Bridgewater. That's how from the buzzer.
It is vast,
Right.
but it is our drinking water as well, and we need to protect it, because if the forest buffer is gone, that's the best buffer for the aquifer. And then there's sand, and you know how permeable sand is. So it's extremely important, and that we educate ourselves about the science. The other thing is, this is not, the bylaw is not for a theoretical solar panels per square footage. It's for, and this project seems to be, if I only had a rectangle. It's not for theoretical shapes, it's for the topography of the land, and it's for the natural world that's around it to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Zoom. Zoom, who's on Zoom?
So Mary?
Mary, go ahead.
She's still muted?
Mary,
Can you hear me?
speak, and you need to, okay, go ahead.
Thank Thank you. My comments pertain to the
Name and
variance.
address, ma'am.
10 Carmichael Way, West Wareham,
And your name?
is Mary Horahan.
Okay, go ahead.
And my understanding is that variances typically aren't intended to facilitate someone's desire or monetary benefit. You know, I'm thinking if I sought to build an addition to my property and it encroached on another person's residential lot, I wouldn't expect the board to be seeking compromise for me the way you seem to be seeking compromise for this petitioner. I'd expect you to deny my request for a variance. I mean, I just don't see any hardship here. They knew the size of the lot when they, you know, moved forward with this. And, you know, I just don't believe we should be, you know, granting variances based on someone's wishes and monetary gain. And thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Anybody else on Zoom? Go ahead.
Hello?
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 Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
No, we can't hear you.
You're better hearing.
Is there a, is it okay if I share my screen, please?
He wants to share his screen. Can you?
That's up to you guys if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, go ahead.
2 minutes, sir.
All right, give me 1 second. It's gonna take, because he's gonna have to come back in. So let me just.
While he's preparing, anyone else here? Yes, come, ma'am, forward.
I'll be brief. Megan Savage, 300 Charge Pond Road. I just want to say the residents of Charge Pond really don't support this project, and to go from 10 to 50 feet, you know, from the highway is one thing, but not to not have that 10-foot, 50-foot buffer from residential is just absurd. And, you know, the talk about potential for water quality, you know, not only is that our drinking water, but a lot of the other cranberry bogs that are on that road use that to feed their bogs, water their bogs, and also feeds the ponds that a lot of us use for recreation. So there's a lot of reasons why the residents of Charge Pond definitely do not support this project. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your time.
Is your guy ready?
He should be there. He just he has to unmute again.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Somehow,
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
All right, well, let me go quickly to, I'll skip the PowerPoint to try to make this quick.
Can you state your name and address, sir?
Yeah, I beg your pardon,
Barry
Barry Cosgrove, Blackmore Pond Circle. Thank you all for your service to our town. Very quickly, we cannot lose track of the fact that there's a legal standard here. And the applicant has said, well, we've never once designed the project to comply with the bylaw because we thought the bylaw was wrong. Last time they tried to explain that, the Dean of Engineering in Wareham, Mr. Riley, said it better than I can. Their argument is preposterous. You should deny this variance and dare them to go to court and try to make the claim that abutting properties within the same district don't apply. That's one. Two, if you listen to what everyone's saying, the obvious point here tonight is more panels are more risk. The poles of the panels go 9 feet into the ground. The groundwater there is only 24 to 48 inches. You don't have to be a mathematician to figure out what that risk results in. More panels, a problem. We have cited multiple cases that say that they do not qualify for the variance. They have not objected to a single one of them. Instead, they cited 3 cases, none of which apply here. One of which involved a loading dock with a 2-foot variance because of a topography problem. Another one in Waltham where they tried to draw a comparison between Waltham, where 98% of the town is not permitted to have solar, with Wareham, where 98% of the town already has solar. There's no comparison whatsoever. On this point, that there was this supposed close compromise between the planning board and the applicant, I was at those planning board meetings, and I can tell you that is a gross exaggeration. The planning board did it by the book and professionally and with diligence. You want a variance, you go to the ZBA. This notion that they were really close and they're coming to you with help to just put it over the edge is fiction. They cannot pass the legal standard. They've been involved in projects right next door where they didn't need the variance and they got it in. This is a money grab. Think about it. A solar project in Wareham is allowed in a residential district. That's unusual. But people said, hey, you know what? Because it's industrial nature, we should give a little more of a setback, 50 feet versus 10 or 20. And what do? They come in and they say, oh, we don't want that. Wanting is not the way
15
it
seconds,
works.
sir.
The ZBA is not an
You're
edge-a-sketch.
20 seconds over. Try to sum it up.
Sum it up.
So to sum it up, there should be no more continuances, and you should deny this thing. The whole street of Charles Pond Road is here to tell you, they too think it's not in the best interest of the town.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Who else, Anthony? Anyone else?
Anybody else in the room that wants to speak or be heard? Oh, another one on Zoom. Nice.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. My name is Jeannie Lennon, and I live at 93 Blackmore Pond Circle in West Wareham. I will be brief. I'm very much opposed to the variance. I've always loved being in Wareham and living in Wareham. It's a beautiful town, and I really worry about, in the past several years, Wareham becoming an environmental guinea pig for all kinds of projects and all kinds of things that take away from, that will ultimately, I believe, take away from its quaintness and beauty. And if not one more tree had to come down for this project, I would be very happy. I think that, you know, the more we put in, the more we're going to have to worry about later. So, you know, I think we're all seeing that there are concerns about environmental issues and health concerns, and it's all going to unfold in its own pace. But I think we do have to be careful about not putting in, at this point, any more than we absolutely have to until we start finding out, you know, what the real concerns for the people in the town are going to be. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, that being said, what's the wishes of the board? Quick, Troy, what you wish? What you wish? You want to close it today? You want to continue? What you want to do?
I could do either. I'd prefer to close it.
Veronica?
I would prefer to close it.
To close it, Jimmy?
I'm malleable either way. I think we kind of indicated a willingness to listen to a monitoring plan, but that doesn't mean we're going to grant the variance. So if I'm hearing the tone of the room, I'm hearing the tone of the board.
So you want to close?
If you want to vote tonight, I'll vote tonight.
All right, Jake? Richard?
Whatever the board feels is proper.
All right. With the board moving, okay. One more person we're gonna listen to. Wanna come forward? Come forward, sir. And after this, we're gonna hear some closing argument because we're gonna close it.
David Fletcher, I just want to make this very brief. I'm sure that the board knows and wants to move forward. But I would like to clarify just some of the things that were said tonight, just so the board is aware of the truth. As the owner of the property, I think I know if I have any residential abutters. I would assume, as you all do, know who abuts you. None of these people here abut my property, not one of them. They live a half a mile to a mile down the road, the closest. And over the years, I have let many people use my property to come in to use the pond, to fish, and maybe that was a mistake. Probably some of these folks here. I've been gracious enough to leave my gates open and people to use my land as if it was their own. But I can tell you, a few things were said tonight that are untruths. None of those people abut me, and the woman who came up and said that there are abutters to that lot is a blatant lie. My only abutters are as this engineering firm has stated would be the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the town of Wareham, Matthew Beaton, who is a cranberry grower, in myself, other lands that I own. There are no other abutter. Actually, I'm sorry, there's one other abutter of a vacant piece of land that does not have dwellings on it. There are no abutters to this property with dwellings present on them that people live on. So that is not, it's not true.
Thank you. Thank you, David. David Fletcher. All right.
There are abutters, they're listed.
Ma'am, you can't speak. Let the clerk explain to you
You haven't
something.
been recognized, but just for the edification of those in the room, it's often people come in front of us claiming to be abutters. One time, we had a guy say he was a butter. He lived a mile down the road. There were exactly 12 other properties between him and the other property. So some people don't know the difference between an abutter and a neighbor. Abutting properties mean you have a common point, a common line. That means your property and the property in question touch each other. To be in the neighborhood, you're a neighbor. To be in a abutter, you touch. You have to have a contiguous point, at least, even if it's just a point to a point. So you may, and the other point of clarification, there is residentially zoned land abutting this property, but it's not owned by abutting neighbors, if that answers anybody's questions.
But regardless, you still have the right to complain, to give your opinion and everything, regardless.
Exactly.
Ma'am, if,
I would just like to, well, I take offense because I certainly
ma'am,
You have to come to the microphone, say your name.
All right,
address,
come to
and
the
all that.
mic.
You have to be recognized by the chair.
No, but listen, ma'am, you're talking about the variance, no offenses, you're not pointing fingers. Name and address. Name.
218
Yes.
Pond Road. I believe the abutters are listed, and I got that off of the planning board's
Yes.
site, along with the other properties, another abutter called
Again,
Ape
no,
Solar.
you're mixing you're mixing the term.
No,
Because when you go to the
Jimmy,
town and
if I
say, I
may,
need to give
Jim.
notice to the abutters,
Jimmy,
they do
Jim.
the abutters and the abutters to the abutters.
right.
Time out. Listen, time out. Regardless, you still have the right to voice your opinion and to be heard.
But they are listed.
Okay.
Maybe if it's mistakenly, because I think they exist within a certain,
What matters, you're here and you voice your opinion. What matters, you're here and you voice your
but the
opinion.
abutters have also done so. But they
Thank
are
you.
abutters. It was
Thank you.
not a lie. If it's a mistake, it's a mistake, but it was not a lie.
Thank you. Okay. Closing, would you want to do anything before we close? Apparently, the board wishes to close, so we have to
Just
close.
one thing, I mean, I think that it's, obviously, it's very important to this developer to, at the very least, have a 50-foot setback, a variance from the 50-foot setback, unfortunately, along the property line that you're concerned about, where to the west, in the north, above the access road, where it abuts town land that is all treed at the moment. There are no residential abutters. There are abutters to abutters under the definition of who has to get notice of public hearings. And I think that's who, is it 121 and 124, 122 and 124 Charge Pond Road. Those are abutters to abutters who are required to receive notice of a public hearing. They are not residential abutters in that they don't share a common boundary line, a property boundary line. The purpose, if you read the requirements that we're seeking a variance from, the purpose of those is to protect residential abutters, neighbors, adjacent, immediately abutting shared property lines from the solar facility. We are in the middle of the woods, backing up on wetlands and cranberry bogs, and then a commercial facility and the town municipal maintenance facility. We are also bordering the town property to the north of the municipal maintenance facility, which is just a sea of trees right now. Between Charge Pond Road and our northwestern boundary, it is trees. To the extent that anybody is suggesting that the town is going to sell that portion of the property to a residential developer who will then mow all the trees down to build a number of residences there. It strikes me as ironic, given that a lot of the concern here has to do
15
with
seconds, ma'am, we
removal
gotta
of trees.
close
Yes.
it.
We need at least a variance from the 50-foot setback in that pressure point, because without that, we can't build in the upper portion of the property that's already just sand, that's no trees.
Okay,
And-
so what are you saying? You gotta come, if you need, you gotta come back with different plan, basically, right?
We can come back with a different plan.
Apparently, this plan, it seems, is not gonna fly.
So it seems, and, I mean, again, no disrespect to anybody in the town, but we are operating in good faith, as hard as that may be for some to believe. We will come back, we can come back with a different plan,
Are you making a motion to continue?
yes.
Okay, she is requesting continuance. Can I have a motion to continue?
Wait a minute, I think we have a
No,
comment.
before we go for it,
Okay.
anyone on the board want to make a motion to continue? I hear none, it's lost. You don't have it. Who wants to speak, Jimmy?
I think Charlie had
Charlie,
something
go
to
ahead,
say.
Charlie.
Mr. Chairman, I think what was just told to you is the crux of the issue, where there is some disagreement on what the zoning bylaw says. As I've stated before, the fact that there are no residential abutters directly adjacent to this property is of no significance. It's not tied to the owner of the property, it's tied to the zoning district in which it lies. It's within a zoning district that is residential in nature. The fact that the town owns that triangular piece of land, again, is of no significance to the argument, in my opinion, because as you know, and as other people know, the town could decide that they were going to sell that piece of property, put it up for auction, and sell it the way that they have put other properties up in town. The fact that they own it does not mean that you should not abide by that, because anything that's in the residential zone, it was presumed when the residential zoning was done and the solar bylaws put in, that not only were the residents protected, but the land that's residential is protected, because the land that's there is owned by someone, and they're under the presumption that if they own the land, and the zoning bylaw says that if you put in a zoning or solar bylaw next to me, I have the benefit of a 50-foot setback so that I don't have to see it.
That's the
I challenge the 50 feet as being substantial enough, but nevertheless, that's what the bylaw says. To allow less than 50 feet against land that is zoned residential, irrespective of the owner of the land, to me, is setting up a situation where that abutting land now is of diminished value because the setback which he could have observed before, now he can't get, because that setback has been violated up to the boundary line. He is under no obligation to maintain a 50-foot setback himself. The property owner who wants to build a solar farm is obligated to that 50-foot setback. So, and the other thing I'd just like to say is that the shape factor is only one factor of granting a variance. The other two have to do with a detriment to the neighborhood, which I would say that if it goes through with something less than 50 feet, is a detriment to the people who own the property next to it because of the value of the land. The second thing is that it's a derogation from the intent of the bylaw, which was to protect residential land.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
I think that's where we have disagreed.
Mr. Chairman, with a motion to continue denied, I make a motion to close the public portion of this hearing.
So we can't hear anyone else. We have a motion on the floor, sorry. Do I have a second on that? Motion to close, do I have a second? Second. Who seconded that? You can't, Jack, you're not sitting on this. Anyone else would like to?
I'll second that.
Second by Troy. All in favor to close this portion of public hearing, say aye.
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 Abstain, so it carries, it's closed.
Okay,
Wishes now.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the variance as requested.
Okay, we have a motion to grant this variance as presented. Any discussion on that?
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
There's been a lot of discussion about this project and about compromise. And my feeling is this project is probably going to move forward. I don't know what the planning board is going to say. The only way that I would compromise on this for the setbacks would be if there was monitoring. Without that, we'd still have a solar system set up here with no monitoring. That's where the compromise comes in. However, it sounds like a lot of the town is against this, so I have to take those wishes into consideration. And I don't see the hardship because the panels are gonna go in, can go in regardless of the shape. So I'm hoping that the planning board will put into place some kind of monitoring if they decide to move forward with this as a condition. And I guess that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Jim to grant, a second by?
Do we have a second on the grant?
Second on granting the motion.
Doesn't mean you have to vote in favor of it, it only means you want to vote on it.
Right. In this matter, I will second it. So all in favor, say aye. Jimmy?
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Veronica?
Nay.
Troy?
Nay.
Okay, it's lost. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we move forward to Family Pantry 30-22, Damien Place Corporation, site plan review 242 Marion Road. We have a request by Mr. Madden to continue. So, and how long do they want to continue? Okay, they have a request to continue October 26. They have a motion and continuing that.
Which one is this? I'm sorry.
The
Damien's Pantry, yeah.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Second it.
Just for the heck of it, Charlie had sent his comments October 10th. I read them. I don't know if you guys read them.
Did, yeah.
Lot of comments. I forwarded them to
Yeah, I
Mr.
saw- I
Madden,
did. I read
so...
some of them.
I sent copies to Bill as well.
Can you close the door, ma'am? Thank you. Thank you very much. So hopefully you send it to Bill?
I did.
So apparently that's why he requested a continuance to go over them. You think he could get it done by 26?
I haven't had any reply from him, so I don't know what's going on.
Oh, did he request? Oh, he didn't request a date.
No, let's continue it till November 9. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Motion by Veronica to continue 30-22
Second.
till November 9. Second by Jim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, oppose, abstain. So this Damien's Pantry goes to the November 9th. Very good. Now we go to public hearing, 33-22, Mr. Ronald Bessie, 171 Marion Road. Should I say Selectman Bessie? I'm sorry.
No,
Have you seen-
not tonight.
All right, very well.
Not tonight.
Name and address, sir, for the record, and we gotta read it onto the record. Just give us a minute.
Yeah, that's 3322.
Do I have a Mr. Morrow here? RJ Morrow applying to be on the board? No? Yeah.
You just put your hand right there for a minute. Thank you very much. So I can get this in here without...
It doesn't want to fit.
Yes. Thank you. I won't need you to come by when I tie my shoes, though.
Not today or tomorrow, but maybe down the road.
The zoning board of appeals will hold a public hearing on October 12, 2022 at 6:30 PM in room 320 of the Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to consider petition number 33-22 for a variance from the requirements of Article 320 under the Wareham zoning bylaws to Ronald Bessie of 7 Lynn Road, Wareham, Mass., proposing to change a retail use to a print shop at 171 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. That appears on Assessors Map 60, Lot 1017B in the MR30 zoning district.
Okay, Mr. Bessie, name and address for the record.
Ronald Bessie, 7 Lynn Road.
Okay, and tell us what your plans to do there.
So our plans for the property at 171 Marion Road was to open up a screen print and embroidery shop, and, you know, custom tumblers, anything you could think of that we could customize to put either a school name on, team name on, you know, family, what have you. That was the intent of the property. We had originally secured a lease for Unit B, the middle unit, for retail sales, and also production of the products. And then we soon realized that we needed some more space. So we went back to the landlord and secured a lease for the end unit, which is the unit now that is currently in question where we were producing our products. The town came to us probably about a month ago and told us that both units were out of compliance with the MR30 district, even with the known fact that that building has been retail, gas stations, grocery stores, all the way back from the beginning of, you know, going back into the 40s. So we continued our retail, we started our retail operation. We thought we had gone through all of the processes of getting the right paperwork, getting the permission from the town to operate there, getting our business license, all of that stuff. So we started in April. We took over the second unit in July. We started using that for, you know, our embroidery, our printing on the T-shirts. And then, like I said, about maybe a month ago, the town came to us and told us that it wasn't in compliance. Had we known back in April when or I should say back early, beginning of 2022, that we weren't in compliance, we would have gone through the process, you know, a long time ago, and not had been operating and having to be closed down for the time that we've been closed down since. So we're here tonight to request a variance for light manufacturing so that we can continue to operate our business that has been there since April. The hardship that I would be looking at is the investment that we've already made in the property, with the electrical work that had to be done that was required by the town and also required by Eversource, because the main power coming into the building, in their eyes, wasn't sufficient to continue operating the building. So we complied, we spent the money. At that time, I had wished that the town, you know, the building department that came down to tell us, hey, we needed to get this electrical work fixed, would have said that we couldn't operate what we were doing, because we would have, in the process of getting all that fixed, we would have applied for the permits, done the paperwork, so that we wouldn't have been operating for as long as we have without the proper documentation. I don't feel that there's any detriment to the community or the abutters, as there are two other businesses that run similar operations to us, you know, within a mile of us. We're a little bit different in that we really cater to the individual, the families that are looking for things for their kids, whether it be backpacks to get their names on, whether it be to get a shirt to support their kid in any type of sporting event that they're involved in. So in ways, it's a lot different than the two businesses that are down the street, because we cater more to the individual without you having to come and, you know, order 36 pieces, because that's what most shops would require on a lot of different things. So I'm just here tonight requesting, you know, that we get the variance so that we can continue serving the people of the community. We've built quite a business so far. We deal with a lot of YMCAs here in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We've just secured a contract with Edaville that is opening back up here in the, for Christmas time. And we're continuing to try to offer services to the schools. We're contacted on a daily basis from different organizations looking for us to provide services for them. And the only way that we're going to be able to continue to provide those services without having to find potentially a new home would be to get the variance granted by this board tonight.
Thank you, thank you. Troy, what do you think? You guys understand what's going on?
Yes.
It's a branch up. Is that noise come out of there?
There's no, I mean, you wouldn't know, we make less noise than the trucks that come in and out of D&J every day. You know, if you didn't know what we did, then you wouldn't know we were there. It's very quiet. There's no noise pollution, no water pollutions. no more, no more than them putting the hairdryer on in the hair salon next door. All the machines are the latest and greatest technologies made to operate in spaces that would have people around where it wouldn't be too much of a detriment to what was going on around you. And the benefit we have is that, we're in the middle, so even if there was a little bit of noise, the end, the end unit who operates every so often wouldn't even know that we were there making something.
Thank you. Troy?
I have no problem.
Veronica?
I have questions about the industrial use. First thing that comes to my mind is marijuana, and once this goes industrial, what else could possibly go here that wouldn't fit?
It's not going industrial.
Okay.
It's going, could be general commercial, strip commercial. Most likely what fit this criteria is general commercial. Most of your manufacturing products sold on the front. That's
Yeah,
what
okay, 'cause
fits that matter.
Well, I'm just reading what's here is industrial use, light manufacturing, and that's what's listed on the paper. I would think it's more strip commercial
He's asking for
myself.
a variance that would be allowed under their industrial use. But
Yeah.
it's zoned, the location is zoned MR30.
Right.
And that's why he needs a variance. He's doing something in an MR30 zoning district that's not listed as an allowed use on our table of uses. And all he's asking for is a variance.
I know what she's going. She's worried if we grant a variance to industrial, it becomes one day dispensary.
Somebody else can do something, or
Right.
something that's industrial that we don't want here.
It will be specifically variance for print shop.
Okay.
That's all we're granting
I'm
is
fine.
his use.
I'm fine with that, yep.
Jimmy?
I think it's kind of sad that you got caught on this one because
I don't think he got caught. He didn't even know.
a few weeks that I've lived in Wareham, sometime in the late 50s or early 60s, I've driven by there and always thought it was anything but MR30. So I can understand how you could easily get in there and, and the wiring inspector isn't going to tell you zoning and so forth and so on. So I certainly believe it was an honest mistake. I think you're here for a use variance. I'm in favor of granting.
Jake?
I'm in favor as well. I'm familiar with the location and familiar with print shops and everything, so I think it'll be a good spot for it right there.
Richard?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay, anyone on the public want to speak in favor of this project? Ma'am, want to come forward, please? I need your name and address, ma'am.
Kathleen Mullins.
Yep.
173 Marion Road.
Okay. And what do you like to tell us?
Since he's been there, other than seeing his cars, you don't know they're there.
Great.
They have cleaned done the shrubberies, cleaned the parking lot, so forth. They don't make any noise. The most you hear is if a car comes in or they're leaving, period.
Great.
And that place has been a business since in the 20s. I've been there since 1970, and there's always been businesses there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the problem is.
But there's some formality, that's all.
Pardon?
Some formality, some paperwork, that's all. I don't think there's a problem.
When did this formality come up?
It's a little complicated how the bylaws written.
51.
It's how the bylaws written, that's all.
Well, I am all in favor of them being there.
Great, thank you.
So far, they've been fantastic neighbors, and I only live 5 foot from my house to their building. You have to buy a certain snow blower to get between.
I like that one.
And we're not even gonna make him honor a 50-foot setback.
I guess let's wrap this one up, right?
That's the thing of it. This house, my house has been there forever. I don't have a front yard because it was owned by one person that started their business. They took their lawn for the access of so forth. Then his son moved to the house beside me on the other side. So everybody gets along between 171 and 173 and 177. And everybody's friendly. The rest I can't say, but I would be pleased to have them as my neighbor.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
Anyone else in favor? Against? I hear none.
I make a motion to close the public portion of this hearing.
Do I have a
I
second?
second.
Second by Rich. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, oppose, abstain, is closed. Wishes?
I make a motion to grant the variance as requested.
Can we, like, put a requirement? Like he
gonna
needs to
grant-
make
grant a
his
variance
neighbor
for
a
a print
shirt
shop,
or
period.
something?
I do anything she needs.
Okay. I'll second.
Second by Veronica. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, oppose, abstain, it carries.
So
Thank
will you be buying the special snow blower? Oh, all right.
It's called my 14-year-old son.
There you go, there you go.
Jimmy,
Good job.
Thank you. You're good.
Thank you.
20 days. We need the signature.
Oh, we have one piece of unfinished business that we,
Settlers
this
Glen, we
one
have
you
to
don't
go
have.
over.
this one, she's not putting it in for us to sign.
All right.
She's letting you and me go over and sign, and then she's gonna send it back after it's
Well,
typed up.
you're going on your own this time, because I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
that's okay.
I just want to go back to the solar. Who denied? Who said no? I know Richard, Veronica.
You were the only,
The only yes.
you were the only one that said
And
yes.
it's okay, but did you say
Everybody
abstain?
said nay. No, I
Nay?
nay. I
Okay.
said nay. Everybody said nay, and you abstained.
Okay.
There was no affirmative
No, I
vote.
said,
Said
I
yes.
said yes.
No,
You
he
said, oh, you
yes.
said yes. It wasn't.
So
I
there
got it
was
written
no
wrong.
abstain, okay.
There was no abstain then.
And this thing that we just passed, the
Glad you
use
brought that up.
requested says commercial general, but that's why I was a little confused too. This says industrial.
Yeah. What's,
So we want to say
what's
it's
the minute?
commercial general is what is, we approved.
What's the variance to manufacture
We didn't
specific?
approve a zoning change. We approved the use.
The use.
For print shop.
For
That's
print
all.
shop, that's it.
We're not changing the zoning,
Oppose.
Just the use for
just
this
the
guy.
use.
Right.
Just the use. And so if somebody else wants to go in there and sell ice cream in that location, they need to change a use. Or anything else you can dream up.
You know, the field card
They want to rent
says,
bounce houses out of there.
field
they-
card says strip stores.
I know, because it's always been retail, but not printing.
Strip stores, yeah.
All right. Oh,
Okay.
this trash, don't bother yourself with it, thank
Trash,
you.
okay.
Oh, is that?
Yes, yes, ma'am, yes. Want to come forward? And name and address and what's the regard?
Hi, I'm Tricia Wirtz, and I live at 30 Taft Street, and I'm here as a citizen, not as a select person.
Right, Madam Select, please sit down.
You need this?
No.
So I just want to, one, really acknowledge you, sir. I don't know you, I recognize you, I don't know if you go by Richard or Dick or whatever. I think it's really important.
Depends who's calling them what and when. and-
All about attitude.
I think it's really important that you brought up the issue of the pollutants going into the aquifer and the water. And I will tell you, before I was a select person, I was involved with the solar projects and understanding what could be impacted and what could not. And all I would tell you right now is, in order to back what you're thinking, just go through the newspapers. There's an article that was out a couple of weeks ago that I believe it's the town of Weymouth. Actually, their water is polluted by these materials, so much so that people in the town have to go and get drinking water. They're concerned about even bathing in it. There was another article out this past week about a certain part of the country where I think it's upper state New York that they have found the deer are all poisoned and polluted with this, and they've warned hunters just not to eat the meat. So the fact that you're looking at this piece, I think that you brought up tonight, I think it's really important, because in the town itself, you know, where does it really fit? Does it fit in planning? Does it fit in conservation? Does it fit in zoning? It doesn't have a real home slot, I think you guys might be the best place for it, so.
Well, we're zoning. I
Yeah.
think it might be conservation.
Well, the problem with conservation, Jim, is in this state, conservation laws only have to do with water. So when you start looking at solar, and you look at the various things that can impact solar, if, for example, if you go down the road to Plymouth, I think it's 58, and you see the telephone poles standing there, they're treated with copper and
They're
with
not standing there
arsenic.
anymore.
Are they finally
already gone?
down?
They're taking them out,
Yeah.
Finally, because they've been there, it's been like a year since they've been told to take them out, and they finally are.
But the
taking them out.
contractor used the wrong poles. He wasn't supposed to use these kinds.
And then they wouldn't take them out either. So meanwhile, that's been going into our aquifer, and it services 6 towns. It doesn't service Onset, but it services everything else, and that pollution's already in there. Carver, with all its cranberry bogs, and a lot of them that they're putting solar into, sometimes they're looking at it combined, and sometimes they're just converting, is they're starting to come up with water tests that show some pollutions in them as well. And it's all going down into our aquifer. And so I really appreciate, you did the town a really big favor tonight, bringing that up. I don't know that you realize how big a favor you brought it up, because the only other place it's been being brought up is in solar committees that come and go, and they are looked at for one issue or not another issue, and this is going to be, and is a bigger issue.
Well, the more I read online, it's just like that guy
Yeah.
said, it's a ticking time bomb, and when it goes, the only people that are gonna pay for it are us and our kids.
Like I said, search for, I think it's in Weymouth, that they're having to go downtown and get water to drink. Search about the hunters up in upper state New York that are being told, don't eat the deer, because they're finding that they're contaminated. And,
If I may, Madam Selectman, I think the best way, if the town want to go forward with these things, the best way to approach it with Board of Health, bringing something to the warrant.
interesting.
Okay, Board of Health, they gotta make a real legit study. I mean, of course, they legit
Yeah.
people, we have a lot of faith in them, but a real clear studies, and bring it to the warrant and let the body vote on it. Maybe abandon the whole thing in Wareham, if you can.
That's
You
good
know, and
advice.
everybody's being on the zoning board. I understand the studies and the chemical, but really and truly, we're here for the setback, not for the chemical. You understand? It's a little complicated. Everybody see it different. Everybody has a passion to it in a certain way, which I understand. But if the people in Wareham, the people want to change, the best place to start, you could contact Board of Health and write something up and bring it to the warrant and address it. I don't think you could say abandon in the whole town, but you could pick and choose unless you could prove to the state and the federal government they're really poisonous, which is good luck.
It's very interesting. So again, I'm speaking as me, the citizen, not as a
Yes.
select person. Okay. My background is in the technology industry, so I had a consulting business in the technology industry for 26 odd years. I am inducted into the Technology Hall of Fame. And the reason I bring that up is I was involved in the launching of PCs and the public internet and all sorts of things. And in the earlier days, when you start to look at technologies that were released, they typically in the United States were not released until they went through proper testing that usually was done by the government. So at one point, I ran an FCC test lab that tested everything in communications and everything in PCs. The companies that got involved in making these batteries are companies that previously made PCs and storage, et cetera. And so as those markets, it's really interesting to watch, as those markets peaked and there was more product and technology on a shelf than there was going out the doors, these companies had to look at a different thing to sell, i.e. we can sell batteries. I mean, I did my first battery project with Duracell in the early 90s. And so you'll see, whether it's a Chinese company or a South Korean company or a Japanese company, they're pushing this technology out because it's where they can make money. The difference, in my opinion, between then and now is it doesn't go through any pre-testing at the government level. You know, there's been no testing done. It's just get it out and sell it.
How do you filter the cadmium out? I mean, is it and the other chemicals, is it possible to filter that out?
That's so hazardous, it's not,
Well,
it's unbelievable to go online and see between making the things, their life expectancy for 20 years, and then to get rid of them, it's not worth what could happen.
Yeah, the problem is us, let's say the middle class, which is we all pretty much middle class in Wareham, is the one who paid the bill. We have this big, huge company make all these things, and we're the one who buys it and work and everything, and they tell you the fossil fuel is bad for you, we do solar, but we honestly and truly, I don't know which one is bad. I like my gas car, I don't want an electric car, but we really don't know what's fair and unfair no more. You really don't trust anybody no more.
My daughter has a Tesla. I don't want to get anywhere near it.
You know, so are they, are the solar people,
Who's doing the marketing?
are the solar, exactly, are the solar people the honest one? Are the gas people the honest one? We don't know.
All about
We
making
try our
money.
best, and everybody has, like I said, a certain passion to something, and which is perfectly fine.
I think the town should go after some other, there's a lot of bad things going on in this town, stuff getting buried many places, and I've gone to the town and I haven't even seen them go. I've been all over and I've gone to the town and told them where some things might be, and I don't even think there's been any tests done yet. So there's a lot more than just solar panels and bad things. There's a lot of crazy things going on, and hopefully we can clean it up someday.
You know, if you jump off a 50-story building and you're still doing okay at the 27th floor, it doesn't mean you don't have a problem.
That was good, Jim.
I know, that's
a good one. I like that one.
Anyway, folks, thanks for listening to me. And
Thank you.
I was going to speak out in the meeting, but then I didn't want to deflect where the conversation was going, and the people who were coming in over Zoom were going back to where it really needed to be on zoning. So, but nice job, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Make a motion to close.
No, before-
Wait a minute.
That Settlers
Settlers
Glen.
Glen, yeah, I was
Settlers
just
Glen,
opening
sorry.
this.
It was here somewhere.
I mean, I haven't had a chance to even look at this.
Oh, there you go. Whoa,
So can we just,
you're
Yeah.
so busy listening to all these people.
All right, this is what we're gonna do.
You want to table it?
You wanna ask Veronica for a copy. I signed it, I'm supposed to sign it, Jimmy will keep it, and he's safe until you guys all say yes. We bring it to Sonia, but I think we voted on this last time. Remember the compromise deal?
Yeah, we
They
did.
went-
Did
This is
vote
just
on it.
This is just
This
putting
is
it in
just
writing.
them put it in writing,
I
because
say
they were
we
supposed to write up.
take a vote of confidence, let her review it. If she says yes, we turn it in.
Okay.
that sounds good to me.
Okay. That's
All
my
the-
motion.
All the pressure on Veronica.
Motion to sign Settlers Glen agreement.
Subject to
And-
Veronica's,
And I can have it for next,
Yeah, you can-
next meet, right? So I'll have
Now,
some
you gotta
time to
take
look at
picture,
it?
I signed that one. You
Oh, oh.
gotta keep it with Jimmy.
This is not on file anywhere? I can't, Sonia can't email it?
Ask Sonia, I'm sure.
I'll scan it and email it to you.
How's that?
How's that? Will that work?
Yep, that'll work.
Okay, so motion to adjourn, no, sorry, motion to,
The motion
Endorse.
is to endorse, subject to Veronica's review, and upon her review, I'll hand it to Sonia.
for Settlers Glen. Do I have a second on that?
I second that.
Second by Rich, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, oppose, abstain. Okay, very good. So, just to let you everyone know, on the next hearing, I'm not here, so you guys are your own. And now you could motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Rich, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye, oppose, abstain. Patty,
Thank
for for the
Thank you, Bob.
for the solar field. In favor, there was only Nazir. Opposed was Veronica, Rich, Jim, and Troy. So there was 1 in favor, 4 opposed, and the motion's lost. And the statute is that it did not meet the statutory requirement of a variance, Chapter 40A, MGL 40A, Section 10.